Hi, and welcome to the very newest version of AdaCAD. This is AdaCAD 4.1. As of June 5th, 2024, it is a beta version, which means that it has all kinds of new features. It's designed to be a little bit more beginner friendly, but still has all the same features AdaCAD used to have. But because it's a beta version, it hasn't been tested as much, so there might be a few bugs along the way. So we just say that to say use with a little bit of caution. If you want a stable version, go ahead and use AdaCAD 3.0, which is available at AdaCAD, ADACAD.org. If you want to use this beta version, you will go to a different URL, and the URL you will go to is right up here. So it's AdaCAD-4-1.web.app. So when you enter that URL, you'll see this page. This is the page that welcomes you to AdaCAD if you are not logged in. So what we see here is a number of different things. And what this video is intending to do is really give you a high-level overview of the interface overall. There's two main ways of creating weaving drafts in AdaCAD. One is the workspace way, which is what we're looking at now. And the other is a more standard draft editor that's similar to using point paper. So you can toggle between these two modes of creating drafts using this toggle switch at the top of the page. We will do in-depth videos talking about the features in each of these modes and how you use them. This video is really thinking about AdaCAD overall, so it's really meant to be a starting point. So if we start with this top bar, what we see, and maybe most importantly, is this little home icon. So this home icon lets you create a new workspace, lets you open a saved AdaCAD file, maybe from your computer, lets you export your current workspace so that maybe you can open it later, lets you save on the cloud, and also just gives you a little bit more information about the project. Next to it, we have this little gear icon, and this gear icon is intended for you to set your preferences. So different regions around the world have different places they like the origin of the weave to be. So specifically, let's look at if we set it to bottom left, all of a sudden now we see that our origin of our draft changed to the bottom left. So if I go back now and change it to top right, or top left, sorry about that, we'll see that it went ahead and changed again. So that's what the origin setting controls. You can also set a default loom type depending on the loom that you're drafting for. You can set your units to be either in ends per inch or ends per 10 centimeters. And we'll get to this a little bit more in our video about the workspace, but you can choose the option to show or not show drafts in the workspace view. The final feature in the preferences is one about showing advanced operations. So if you come to AdaCAD for the first time and you're not logged in, you will just see over here a list of all these different operations. And again, we'll go into this more in the workspace video, but you can add operations to the workspace and they generate little drafts. If you're a more advanced user, or if you've been using AdaCAD for a while, you might want to go ahead and show some of those advanced operations. And you can do that via this gear, or you can do it via this toggle switch here. Okay, one of the other really interesting features that is enabled in this newer version is becomes available when you log in. So you can log in with your Google account. Currently, that's the only way we have to log in. So I can sign in with my Google account. And now what this has done is it's saved this current file on the cloud. And actually, if I'm logged in, it'll save all my files on an AdaCAD server somewhere in the internet cloud. If you want to see all those files that you have saved, you can go back to this house and say Manage Saved Files. And of course, because I've been developing this, I have a lot of saved files. But on each of those saved files, you can change the name, you can duplicate it, you can download it, or delete it. So we can go ahead and open this file, Welcome to AdaCAD. All right. So here is the Welcome to AdaCAD workspace. And that's something that was just saved online. So if I edit it now, it'll continue to just automatically save it. And if I ever want to download this and just have it on my desktop, I can do that with export, or I can also click down in the bottom right corner at download. Okay, so that covers our top bar. Let's go ahead and move over to the sidebar here, which is a space that I call the viewer. So the viewer is really intended to give you another view, of course, of your draft. So if you're working in the mixer, you can select all these different drafts, and as you see, I'll go ahead and zoom in, they are showing in the viewer. And the viewer shows a different representation of the draft. It shows it as a really rough simulation of the floats and colors that would be employed on that draft. So here we have black warp, white weft in a satin pattern. The controls we have in the viewer are to zoom in and zoom out using the zoom bar. We can also expand the viewer to see it much larger in the case where you have larger drafts. There's a few options for how you can view your drafts. You can view them as what I call color pattern, that's what we're seeing now. Just as a structure, so not looking at color, but just looking at the floats and how they're lined up. Or as a draft, which is really the kind of default view. Okay. Other features we have here are we can click this button to open the editor and edit this draft, or we can click this button to download the draft. And when you click it, you get a few different options. You can download it as a bitmap. So that's really where 1 pixel represents 1 draft value. And that's intended to import into something like Photoshop if you're doing more picture-based weaving, or you can actually take that bitmap and import it directly to a loom like a TC2. You can also download the draft as an image, so that's maybe if you just want to keep it for your personal records and see it a bit bigger. And you can download it as a WIF file if you wanted to use it on Adobe Loom or a different kind of weaving software. The last feature we have here is called Pin, and this makes a little more sense if you're working on a draft that's further down in the data flow. So what we have here is a twill that's made symmetric, and then down here it's converted into a rectangle. If I want to see what this rectangle is going to look like, if I change this twill, well, there's a problem because when I change the twill, it always goes back to show the twill. So we invented this pin button so that you can pin the draft that you want to see in the viewer. And then no matter what else you click, that draft will stay pinned. So if I then went up here and started changing my variables, I would see the effect that they have on the draft at the end. All right, and then I can unpin it when I'm done. Every draft in AdaCAD can be given a unique name. So maybe I'll call this Happy Draft. All right, and you'll see that that name is saved and associated with the draft. And the last piece of information it has is just some numbers on the number of ends and picks in the structure, which can be helpful to refer to later. The next section we have over here on here is a section that I call quick links. So this is just quick ways to access common features you might need. So one of those is managing materials. So if you want to add different colors of materials so that you can see how they look on your draft, you can do that in this material library. You can also open this to see different examples that you can already load in AdaCAD and play with. So if we want to open, let's say this first one, so you can start playing with the outcomes and see what happens. So if we look at this draft, we see the draft structure here. If we go back to color pattern, all of a sudden we can see the changes in the color. If we hit pin and we go up here and change a few values, we start seeing how those color patterns and the structure patterns work together to create different kind of visual effects. All right, the last button down here in Quick Links is Get Help. So that will take you to the AdaCAD documentation, and it'll open that in another tab so you won't lose your work. So down here at the bottom, we have some other features that are pretty important. The first that I've already talked about is download, but if you want to give your workspace a special name so you can recognize the file on your computer or see it in your managed files if you're logged in, you can write that name here. So my special name. Now if I hit download and I download the current workspace, a file will be created in my downloads folder that's called myspecialname.ada or ADA. Now in the center section of the bottom toolbar, I thought this might be a nice place to announce new features. So right now I'm announcing a feature that lets you click multiple and move multiple operations at one time. So if you hit Shift and you click, you'll see that you can actually move more than one thing at a time. You can also copy paste those elements too. Now, some of the most important features are over here on the left. So this is where we can control the zoom of the interface, going in and out there, or just moving this zoom bar. This is really important when you need to read small text. So you can zoom in to read and then zoom out to see the interface more broadly. We also have these two buttons here that control undo and redo. So if I were to come in here and change some values, I could use undo to actually go back to the previous values. All right, so that concludes the interface overview for AdaCAD. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will try to post links in the description to specific videos about how to use the features that are intended just for the workspace or just for the draft editor.